thank you very much. This is Tom Perry at IBI. Thank you for joining us today, looking at the new and revised query tool for the benchmarking program. You all should be seeing our main page at www.ibiweb.org, and I'll take you into the benchmarking website, and we'll go around the query tool, give you some examples, get you familiar with how it works. And once you see that, it's a very intuitive tool, and you'll find that you can use it quite easily. So once you log in with your user ID and password from our main screen, you'll see here the tab IBI Benchmarking. And when you click on that tab, it'll take you to the benchmarking portal on our database. You'll see here we're looking at the 2011 calendar year experience and the two features, the industry summaries, where you can actually get summary level information by SIC code. That webinar is recorded on our website for those of you who'd like to look at that. But today we're going to talk about the database query. And we built this tool because we realized there are some occasions where a member company working with an employer wants to look at something beneath, if you will, the industry level information. They want to slice and dice the benchmarking reports. And so we built a query tool which allows you to go into the website and actually look at subsets of the industry benchmarks. So let's click on the database query. And when we click on the database query tab, we see the 4 benefit programs for which we have benchmarking information. So today I'll just give you some brief examples looking at short-term disability and federal family and medical leave. So let's click on STD. And when we do that, we see the screen that pops up here, the menu structure that we've built, and it's pretty much the same for all 4 programs. And so once you really understand how this works, you can use it in any of the 4 programs that you desire. So the first step is to tell the system whether you want to look at benchmarking experience at the claim level or at the employer level. Well, what does that mean? You know, there's certain metrics that are best calculated looking at claims, and good examples are average claim costs and average durations. There are other metrics that are best looked at the employer level. Incidence, for example, is an employer level metric. But the system allows you to select which view of experience that you want to use in calculating the metrics based on the interests of your client and the kinds of information that you think would be most useful in helping your clients understand what's going on in their industry. So let's, for the sake of this illustration, we'll select the claim level view. And the second step is to select the metrics that you're interested in. Well, once we click on that tab, we see the metrics information come up, and let's expand the list. And this is again the way all our queries are structured in each of the 4 programs. It allows you to look at the kinds of metrics available and select the metrics that you're interested in, the particular query that you want to do for a client. So let's today just take a couple of examples. Let's say we're interested in payments per closed claim, and let's say we're interested in lost work days per closed claim, 2 metrics that employers, of course, are often interested in. So now we've told the system what metrics we want to display in the report. And the third step is now to select the criteria. That is, what subset that you really want to be in this report. And as you can see here, when we click on that, we see the various criteria that you can select: industry type, location, plan type, covered lives per employer, which we really use as a measure of employer size, age of claimant, gender of claimant, and type of insurance. So let's just give you a couple of examples. And let's say that, as most employers do, they're interested in the industry level of metrics. Now, previous to this year, we only had the opportunity to do queries at the highest level of industry, that is the SIC Division 1 level. And that's what you see here. And so, as you can see here, in each of the major divisions, you also see in parentheses the number of claims that we have for that particular industry. when we look at the query, you'll always see the number of claims change as you select additional criteria to filter on. Now let's say that you have a manufacturing employer client. So we'll click on the plus sign in manufacturing, and now you see within the manufacturing industry the 2-digit SIC codes for which you can get individual queries. And so let's look at some of these, and let's say you have a client in the printing business. So we'll click on printing. But let's also say that client also has services in the transportation business. And let's say we want to look both at printing and transportation as a way to get a broader view of that particular client and the services that client provides. So you can start to see again the 2-digit SIC codes that are available in transportation. So let's click on motor freight transportation. And what this does, it essentially adds 33,000 claims to the 17,000 claims we see in printing. So it allows you to select multiple industries and look at metrics combining industries, which again we had never had the ability to do before. So once we select the industry we want to look at, or the subset of industry, now we have the opportunity to look at different other criteria that we might want to bring into the query. So for example, we click on location. We actually have state level information. Oftentimes you might want to look at a region of the country, and you can do that by clicking multiple states. So let's say you're interested in the Northwest and you click on Washington, Oregon, and maybe Idaho or Montana, depending on how you want to define a region. But it gives you the ability to really tailor the analysis based on what you need. You can do individual states, of course. You can do combinations of states as well. So we'll click back on that. We also have the ability to look at plan type. So if you're interested in the types of plans that an employer might have, and so let's say we're interested in an STD plan that has a 1-day elimination period and 6 months of benefits. So we click on that, and we see now that we have 11,500 claims or so that qualify given that additional criterion. We also can add employer size, number of covered lives, age of claimant, gender of claimant, insurance type. So by clicking on the plus button, you can start to see and add criteria. Now remember, the more criteria that you add to a query, the fewer claims will qualify. So you always want to be very cognizant of the number of claims in this case that's in the query. So you really can put the metrics in a context of how many claims does this really represent, or how many claims went into the calculation of that particular metric. So we've selected a couple of sub-industries, we've selected a plan type, and now let's look at the fourth step, which allows you to generate the report either as a PDF or as an Excel spreadsheet. So perhaps you're making a presentation to a client and you'd like this information in an Excel spreadsheet so you can actually build graphics out of it. You have that ability to do as well. Today we will, for purposes of illustration, run the report as a PDF. So once we've done this, the last thing we have to do is just click Generate the Report, and the system will go in, make the calculations, comes up with a window, click OK, and now it will actually show you the results of your query, the two metrics that we selected. And you'll look here, and it will always show you the criteria that you selected. So when you have a report, you're always reminded what went into that calculation, what criteria you selected that led to the calculation of the metrics that you're interested in. And as we always do in all of our reporting, we show the group average, that is the arithmetic mean for the metric. We show the group median. And we show the median because so often when we're looking at benefits information, we get a very different view of the world of experience when we look at the median value. And remember, the median value is that value which distributes the sample in 2 equal parts. And as you can see here, we get very different views when we look at the average. So here it's about $3,386 payments per closed claim versus the median of about $2,000. Now, why is that? Well, if you did take statistics in high school or college, you'll remember that extreme values, whether they're very large values or very small values, go into the calculation of the average. So if you had a couple of very big values, it affects the average calculation. Those values on either extreme, either very high values or very low values, do not affect the median. And oftentimes, we like to look at the median as a good representation of what's really going on in that particular metric, not influenced by extreme values. We also show, to give a better sense of the entire distribution, the percentiles, the 10th percentile, 25th, 75th, and 90th. So remember, the 90th percentile means that only 10% of the employers had a value larger than that. So it gives you a sense of where that value fits in the overall distribution. We also show the number of claims that went into the calculation. Again, we always want to be cognizant of the underlying data that goes into the calculation. So this is a good example of how the database query tool works for short-term disability. And as I say, the structure is pretty much always the same in each of the 4 programs. And once you do this a couple of times, it allows you to really play with this tool. You can quickly become very proficient and start to look at different views by simply clicking on buttons, unclicking buttons, and starting to see the kinds of information that your clients are interested in. And because it's a web-based tool, you can be sitting in a client's office and log in and run a report and hand that report to the client real time as you're there. So let's now, we've looked at STD, so let's look at federal family medical leave. We certainly are seeing a tremendous amount of interest in federal FML today. And now we've clicked on federal FML. We see again the same structure. Step 1, selecting whether you want to look at the claims view or the employer view. Step 2, the metrics. Let's select our metrics. We'll expand the list to show the metrics that are available. And we've organized the metrics, the selection of metrics, in kind of broad questions that are of importance to employers. So here you see why are employees taking FML leaves and the metrics within that. Own employee's health condition, bonding, family member. How often is the program used by employees? Again, metrics there. So it really allows you to get a better view of what's going on in FML with the criteria you're interested in. So let's again select the percent leaves for employees' own health condition. And let's look at the lost work days per leave. Say we're interested in those 2 metrics. So once we've selected our metrics, we now can go down to step 3 and select the criteria. And again, you'll see a very similar structure here. We have the ability to select on industries, geographic locations, employer size, and gender and age of claimants. So let's again look at industries. We see the SIC codes. Now, we create benchmarking groups when we have at least 30 employers in a group, in an industry group, whether it's the 1-digit SIC code or the 4-digit SIC code, or actually the 2 or 3-digit SIC code as well. So we let the data really help us form the groups that are available. And let's look at manufacturing and the subsets, and let's say we have a printing company, and let's say that printing company also is involved in the distribution business. And so we'll select on that as well. Transportation, motor freight transportation. So now we've selected the industries that we're interested in the calculations. Let's say also we'd like to look at employer size. And let's say that we're particularly interested in looking at the larger employers, that is more than 5,000 covered lives. So now we've selected in industry groupings, based on several SIC codes, and now we've said we want to look at large employers and see what their experience is. The fourth step, again, to select whether you want the report as a PDF or in an Excel spreadsheet. And the final step is, again, to generate the report. So you can see how easy this is to get those subsets of the overall industry reports that you have access to, again, in the same web portal. Now, I will also mention that it may be that there is a question you have that even the database query tool doesn't answer. You can always contact IBI staff, because we can go into the underlying database and do specialized analyses and provide you back those reports as well. So the real goal here is to maximize the value of the underlying data that are in the database. So this year we have about 3.5 million claims in our database, something on the order of 62,000 employers, and the ability to report on something like 950 individual SIC codes. So it's the biggest and most diverse database of its kind in the country. And we always want to bring value to our members by maximizing the value that are in that data, so you can really help your clients most effectively. So we've now generated this report for family medical leave. Again, you see the criteria down here and the two metrics that we selected up here. So once you do this a couple of times, you'll find that it's a very, very easy tool to use. And you can, as I said, use it to generate graphics by getting downloads in Excel spreadsheets as well. We also have both long-term disability and workers' comp. I'll just click on workers' comp to give you a sense of the complexity there. And we'll select metrics just to show you the tremendous complexity of the workers' comp program and system. But if you do work with employers in workers' comp, or you're working with an employer in short-term disability and you'd like to help that employer understand what's going on in workers' comp in their industry, you can always go into the workers' comp part of this, generate reports, perhaps on similar metrics, and start talking to the employer about absence in the broader context than just STD, which may be the point of interest of the employer. So this gives you hopefully a good sense of how the query tool works. You can access the query tool on an unlimited basis. Anytime you have detailed questions that you're either interested in for a client or for responding to an RFP or for whatever reason. And all of your colleagues in your organizations have the very same access. So if they were not able to join us today, they certainly can go to our website and will be able to view this in a video form, which will allow them to quickly understand how to use the database query tool as well. So with that, in the interest of time, I will unmute the line in case you have any questions. Are there any questions that you'd like to ask while we're all on the line together? Questions? Well, so it is that straightforward. Well, good. If you do have additional questions that kind of pop up after the fact, you can always contact me at IBI. And my email address is tparry@ibiweb.org. Or you can contact Skylar, who is responsible for our database and benchmarking program, and his email address is sparry@ibiweb.org. So I want to thank you for your attention today. Hopefully this will add value as you work with clients. And as I say, if you have any questions, please let us know.